Hello friends, welcome to our channel, where we delve into the most intricate and captivating cases in criminal history. Today, we are diving into one of the most mysterious and tragic stories that still tugs at many hearts, the story of family Dupont de Ligonnès. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss any new episodes. In Nantes, France, the Dupont de Ligonnès family lived at 55 Robert Schumann Boulevard. They appeared to lead a normal life, respected in the community without any criminal connections. However, in April 2011, the family became central to one of France's most horrific crimes, with their home dubbed the House of Terror. The Dupont de Ligonnès family residing in Nantes consisted of 6 members, a family of the upper middle class. Xavier Pierre-Marie Dupont, the father, was 50 years old, a man from French aristocracy who had succeeded in the trading business. His wife, 48-year-old Agnès Hodanger, was a deeply religious woman. She taught at a Catholic school and was actively involved in church activities. Their relationship had a rocky start in the 1980s, but the couple eventually married in 1991. Agnès had a child from a previous relationship, but the family grew with 3 more children. At the time of the described events, Arthur Nicholas was 20 years old. Studying information technology, 18-year-old Thomas was passionate about musicology. 16-year-old Anne was an excellent student and worked part-time as a model. The youngest, Benoit, was 13, sharing Thomas's love for music, especially drumming. The family also had 2 beloved black Labrador retrievers. Life for the Dupont de Ligonnès family was routine until April 11, 2011, when something happened, causing their bustling home to fall silent. This silence worried the neighbors. An unusual note was left on the door, asking the courier not to deliver mail. After 2 days of this mysterious silence, the police were called. On April 13th, the police arrived at the family home. To enter, they had to break the lock. Inside, despite the made beds and open closets, everything appeared normal. The authorities assumed the family had left voluntarily. They saw no cause for alarm or continued investigation, though the absence of one car, too small for the entire family and their pets, raised suspicion. Neighbors tried to unravel the mystery of the family's sudden disappearance. After the family vanished, printed letters, supposedly from Xavier and Agnès, started to appear, explaining their absence in detail. The 8-page letters claimed Xavier was a spy for the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, forcing the family to flee because his identity had been exposed. They spoke of joining a witness protection program, severing contacts with loved ones, and even wanting to retrieve their favorite literary works. Initially, recipients were intrigued by this notion due to Xavier's eccentric reputation. However, Agnès' family, sensing something was wrong, forwarded the letters to the district attorney in Nantes. The sudden departure without prior notice left them deeply distressed, arousing suspicions of foul play. On April 15, 2011, the police returned to Robert Schumann Boulevard. After concerns from relatives and neighbors, further searches of the residence uncovered empty picture frames, but nothing more suspicious. Additional searches occurred on April 18th, 19th, and 20th, as family members insisted something was amiss. On April 21st, during a 6th search coinciding with a public appeal from relatives, the police made a horrifying discovery on the terrace. Duct-taped garbage bags containing the remains of Agnès and 3 children, along with 2 sets of animal bones, presumably their dogs. 18-year-old Thomas was found buried nearby, suggesting he might have been killed later. Each body was accompanied by a religious item, indicating a religious burial and an emotional connection with the perpetrator. Despite thorough searches, Xavier, the head of the family, remained missing, becoming the prime suspect in the murders. An international arrest warrant was issued on May 10, 2011, and remains active. Media sensationalism labeled the house on Robert Schumann Boulevard as the House of Terror and Horror. Friends and family couldn't comprehend how Xavier, a devoted family man, could commit such a heinous act. Xavier was known for his altruism and deep love for his family, leaving the motive for such a crime unclear. Moreover, he had no criminal record or connections. Doubts about the identification of the bodies found under the terrace arose, with Xavier's mother and sister questioning the possibility due to his back problems. They suggested the possibility of a setup, casting doubt on Xavier's guilt. The notion that the family had fled the country and staged their deaths seemed implausible to those who knew them well. Autopsies of the Dupont family members revealed traces of sleeping pills in the children's bodies, indicating they were sedated before being shot. Each family member was shot twice in the head with a .22 caliber rifle, which Xavier had recently inherited from his father. Despite initial theories that they were shot in their beds, no blood traces were found in any bedrooms or the house. Forensic experts found no DNA, fingerprints, or fibers on the remains or the bags containing the victims, leaving the authorities with no leads and prompting a re-examination of the family's life for clues. What is known about Xavier Dupont, a seemingly successful man both in career and family life, was that he had hidden financial troubles. Contrary to his claims of prosperity, he was a failing businessman. In the early 2000s, he moved his family to Florida to pursue the American dream. But the venture went bankrupt, and they returned to France with limited finances. Despite portraying himself as a successful entrepreneur with economic ties across France, this business also failed. Faced with impending financial collapse and the potential loss of noble status, Xavier confronted the prospect of dishonoring the Dupont de Ligonnes name, an intolerable outcome for him. He showed an interest in rifles and purchased one on March 12th, along with ammunition. A receipt found on April 19th indicated the purchase of black garbage bags and duct tape from a nearby DIY store, all used to conceal the bodies. In early April, Xavier bought cement, a shovel, and lime bags, further suggesting premeditation. Knowing all this, let's follow the timeline of events. On Sunday, April 3, 2011, the Dupont de Ligonnès family was last seen alive at a local restaurant and a cinema. They returned home afterwards. That evening, Xavier called his sister, mentioning their outing, and ended the conversation enigmatically. See you? Maybe next day, on Monday, April 4. Friends of Anne and Benoit became worried when they didn't appear at school, and attempts to contact them went unanswered. Throughout the week, neighbors heard the family's dogs barking for 2 nights. Then silence. On April 6th, a friend of Arthur's visited but found no one home, and the dogs were silent. It was assumed that Agnès, Arthur, Anne, and Benoit were killed on the night of April 3rd. Thomas returned to university, but on April 5th, Xavier contacted him, stating his mother was in a coma after a bicycle accident and ordered him to come home. After this, Thomas was sedated and killed that evening. Though the exact chronology remains unclear, some facts have emerged. First, the lease on the family home was terminated. All bank accounts were closed, and final settlements with the children's schools were made. Agnès's employers were informed of her illness and a supposed move to Australia. The house stood empty. Let's trace Xavier's steps. On April 6th, neighbors saw Xavier on the street alone, and on April 7th, they saw him loading black garbage bags into his blue metallic Citroën C5. He stayed in the house for a week before leaving Nantes on April 10th, heading south. Surveillance cameras captured him along the way, including at a restaurant, a hotel on Shelley Boulevard, and a toll booth. Despite being filmed, Xavier didn't hide his identity, leading many to speculate he was contemplating suicide, a common outcome in family murders. Xavier traveled southwest through Toulouse, Arles, and Lausanne-sur-Mer before arriving on April 14th in Roquebrune-sur-Argent, a familiar place to him. He stayed in several hotels under the alias Laurent Xavier. On April 26th, French authorities found the missing Citroën C5 in a hotel parking lot in Roquebrune-sur-Argent. Interestingly, in printed letters to family and friends, Xavier claimed he had given car parts to the father of one of Arthur's friends, another lie in his elaborate web of deceit. Surveillance footage showed Xavier staying at the Formula One Hotel on April 14th. He was seen carrying a long black bag across the parking lot, containing the rifle used in the murders. Xavier then looked directly into the surveillance camera, seemingly saying goodbye before leaving. This prompted authorities to search the surrounding wilderness, hoping to find his body, but no signs of suicide were found. Xavier appeared to vanish without a trace, leaving investigators to ponder whether he had committed suicide or fled, possibly staging his disappearance to buy time to escape. Many speculated that Xavier might have fled to South America, possibly on a cargo ship bound for countries like Brazil or Argentina. He was fluent in several languages, including French, English, and Spanish, enabling him to blend into various communities worldwide. Before his disappearance, Xavier maintained contact with an old friend in Germany named Claudia, whose whereabouts also remain unknown. Another theory suggested that Xavier might have sought refuge in a monastery. In January 2018, authorities searched a monastery in Roquebrune-sur-Argent after monks reported seeing him, but the investigation concluded it was a case of mistaken identity, as the monk in question resembled Xavier. Since 2011, authorities have received over 900 tips, exploring numerous leads, but none have yielded results. Extensive searches have been conducted across France, including open waters and old mines, yet Xavier remains elusive. Despite finding human remains, none have been identified or linked to Xavier. The mystery surrounding Xavier Dupont continues to baffle investigators. In July 2015, a journalist received a photo purportedly of Arthur and Benoit with the inscription, "I am still alive," on the back. However, it remains unknown if Xavier was behind this, as investigators could not verify the handwriting's authenticity. 13 years have passed, but the mystery of the events of April 2011 remains unsolved. If Xavier is indeed guilty of brutally murdering his family, many questions remain unanswered. Firstly, what drove him to commit such a horrific crime? Was it the shame of his financial difficulties or the fear of tarnishing the family reputation? Though not a typical motive for murder, it remains a possibility. Secondly, what compelled Xavier to resort to violence? What led him to take the lives of his children, depriving them of their future in an instant? The potential involvement of an accomplice further complicates the case. Did someone help Xavier escape from France? Despite numerous theories, one fact remains indisputable. Xavier Dupont is still at large. He is wanted for questioning in connection with the brutal murders of his wife and 4 children. Until he is found, the truth about that fateful day in April 2011 will never be fully uncovered. Thank you for watching. Next time, we'll have something even more interesting for you. So subscribe and stay tuned for updates. Until next time.